Greetings, Bath Warriors. Greetings. Greg's getting back on here. Welcome to the Results Kill Excuses channel. It's a great honor to be on here. I think it's been a few weeks since we've done a live stream. There's always lots of things happening. When you're doing this thing called life, when you're playing this game called life, there's always something. There's always something going on. There's always a new challenge, a new lesson, a new opportunity to grow. And I think that's really going to be the main focus of tonight's talk, is really talking about the greatest gift. It's at least the greatest gift that I've given myself, right? What's the greatest gift you've ever given yourself? Is it some new shoes? Is it a vacation? What's the greatest gift you've ever given yourself? What's the greatest gift you've ever given to someone else? That's an interesting thought, don't you think? What's the greatest gift you've ever given to someone else? I love the idea of giving gifts. Sometimes I love the idea of being a gift. And if you think of yourself as being a gift to the world, that you're a gift, that you have a potential to give something to this world, something so incredible. That's a beautiful thought, right? A lot of times I think we think that it's like, again, if you start thinking of yourself as a gift, sometimes we can think about it like it's shallow, narcissistic, egomaniac. And it wasn't until I hit rock bottom 14 years ago that I really started to think about making some major changes in my life. And if I look back, I think one of the greatest gifts that I've ever given myself was, I'll go over a few. I think sobriety was probably one of the greatest gifts that I gave myself. Yeah, the ability to do life on life's terms. Sobriety. That was probably one of the greatest gifts that I've ever given myself. What's one of the greatest gifts you've ever given yourself? I'll even tell you that therapy has been a great gift that I've given myself. All the self-care I do is an incredible gift, because here's the thing, is that when you prioritize your health, your wellness, and you really improve yourself, I can guarantee you this, that you're going to show up in this world. You're going to show up in your family. You're going to show up in your work. You're going to show up in all the different circumstances and the social connections and the networks when you are truly being your true and authentic self. You're going to show up in such a new, refreshing way for everyone else that you connect with, that you have contact with. The hardest thing about that is not everybody's going to want that version of you. That's probably the hardest. No, it's not the hardest. Because the hardest thing is making a decision that, yes, you listening, that you're worth, that it's worth your time, it's worth your focus, it's worth your energy to figure yourself out at a really deep level, at the emotional level. Can you give yourself the ability to figure yourself out at the emotional level? Not just at the surfacey level, not just based on race, gender, the things that other people can see, but truly figuring yourself out at the emotional level. And when we figure ourselves out at the emotional level, what we're really doing is understanding our patterns and taking our power back. Because one of the things that I've learned on my healing journey is it's never about self-control. It's not about self-control. It's about self-awareness. And the difference is, you want to know the difference? Anybody? Anybody? Have you ever... Thank you for all the comments coming through tonight. It's all over the place, right? Because again, that's the thing. We're all looking for something. And I spent a lot of years looking for things. I looked outside of myself before I realized that the real journey, the real results, the real healing, and the real opportunity for me to become the best version of myself was to go inward, to figure out the inside of myself, which was the emotional, the subconscious. And I know that we think, this dude over here, Trevor, if it's all about Jesus for you, it's all about Jesus for you, bro. That's what you signed up for. You signed up for the Religious 101 program for your journey in this life. And Jesus is going to give you double high fives when you get to the end of your life. And then he's going to tell you, but guess what? There's more. There's more. There's so much more. And that's what a lot of people that are caught up in the religion, y'all don't want to hear that. And that's cool. You don't have to hear it because we're all on different timelines. We're all undergoing different curriculum. What do I even mean by curriculum? Right? I have a teaching background. I still work in higher ed. It depends on what you think heaven is, bro. You define heaven. What do you think heaven is? If you think there's heaven, you also think there's hell. That means that you got to do a bunch of things. And if you don't do the things, then you burn forever and ever. It doesn't work that way. I do not believe that anymore. And I know the Bible. I know the Bible inside and out, inside and out. And there's mystery to it. But there's some certain things that I realize when it comes to this experience called life, right? There's a lot of people right now on this planet. Let's just say everyone. Everyone on this planet is suffering to one degree or another. And what the kind of suffering we're talking about. I have faith in the eternal. I don't have faith that Jesus is here to save, was here to save me. I think Jesus is the example. And he says he's the example. He says that you will do greater things than I. He doesn't say worship me. He says do greater things. And he did some pretty incredible things. Jesus was a mystic. A lot of people don't want to go there though. If I'm wrong, then I got nothing to lose. If I'm right, I got nothing to lose. Because we're eternal souls having a human experience. And so if you come into this world, you have a purpose, and your purpose is to awaken. It's a spiritual awakening. That's what we're teaching here. And I did all the Jesus stuff. And it didn't get me far enough along that path, which I realized is that in previous lives, Jesus was the way. When I signed up for the Religious 101, it's hell, bro. Dude, you know how many people that I've served? You know how many times I've been in disaster zones? You know how many people are actually living in a hell right now? Probably you. There are so many people. Hell is the psychological, the emotional, and the spiritual suffering that we put ourselves through. And everyone's suffering on this planet. Every single person is suffering. That is actually a state of hell. That is actually punishment that we put ourselves through. And so if you think it's pride, it's not pride, it's confidence. Pride is when you come on here and you think you're right. Right? There's no wiggle room. It's like, oh, no, no, no. It's all about this. It's only this. And then there's 8 billion people all around the world. There's religions, and there's so many holes in the Bible. You want to know what really got me? I'll entertain your conversation for a moment. That's a deep question, Luke. I'm gonna answer that because I'm gonna tell you through my own experience. My own experience is I did have a Jesus moment along my journey. I used to teach the word. I used to preach the word. I used to do the worship. I used to do the kids' kingdom. And I would sit there with a bunch of dudes, 6 o'clock in the morning, 5 days a week, doing Bible studies. And you know what? Every single dude kept coming in with the same old shit, man. There was no growth. It was just constant complaining about all the struggles in life. And I believe in the law of attraction. So the more you focus on sin, right, the greater the temptation, which is really just an energetic force, right? So you're just tempted more and more and more and more. And then you feel worse and worse and worse about yourself because you can't obtain self mastery and you lack self control. But again, it's not about self-control. It's what I started the conversation with. It's never about self-control because self-control works 99% out of the time. But in my experience in the wounded state, that one time that I lost self-control, it was hell breaking loose. And so what I've learned in my own journey, and this is where I'll talk about the Bible, is that there's 2 things that is not in the Bible. And I've talked to many biblical scholars. I've talked to many pastors. Not one person has ever told me, you are wrong. It's right here. It's not there. So the one thing that's not in the Bible is trauma. I'm also somebody that has been diagnosed with PTSD, military veteran. And trauma is not in the Bible. And there's also not a process for healing trauma. And what I've learned along my journey, and this is hard for religious people to hear, is because trauma in and of itself is not in the Bible, but there are some very traumatic human experiences in the Bible. Every story is just incredible in terms of the human suffering, mental, psychological, and spiritual. And yet, when I went through my awakening, I've been sober for 14 years. The thing that I have learned along this journey, and I learned this when I finished up 3 college degrees, was leading a nationally award-winning Veterans Resource Center. I'm here in northern New Mexico, and it was a community college here. You can look all this stuff up if you want. Santa Fe Community College, best for vets, #1 in the nation. And I finished up my degrees, and I said, I want to go make a difference in this world. I want to help the youth. And there was a couple other veterans at the time. They were getting into teaching, like elementary school teachers, guys like me, right? Hard chargers. And for some reason, I don't know, it just interested me. A couple of the guys that I knew I respected greatly for their service, their sacrifice, and even their drive to thrive in higher education. And yet they had this calling to go into the classroom. And I had built out this program serving veterans and their families, and I was ready for a change. And so I started looking into teaching in public education. And someone that's got 3 business degrees, the state of New Mexico is really, really bad at education. And so they have something called an alternative licensure. And what it means is you can have any 4-year degree, and you take a certificate course to become a teacher. Now, here's where the trauma really, really awakened within me as to its effects. And this is why the Savior falls flat with me nowadays, right? But if you're a religious person, I'm telling you, like, you signed up for the curriculum for Religion 101 in this life. And if you are, right, worshiping Jesus, he's going to be so excited for you. He's going to give you double high fives. Good job. And he's going to say, but wait, there's more. And you get to come back, and then you get to go even beyond just the religiosity. And it's really about the spiritualism. But here's what I learned as a 4th and 5th grade teacher, and this is during the pandemic, is I went to the worst school in my area. And the first day as a teacher, I mean, there was books flying, fists flying, and the classroom was just total chaos. And I was pretty shocked. And I told the kids, I said, you know what? Y'all are in control today, but I promise you this, tomorrow is a new day. And I promise you there's a new sheriff in town. And they kind of laughed at me. And I had a great time teaching. But one of the biggest lessons I learned that awakened me to what's really going on inside of us as humans. We hear a lot about childhood trauma, the inner child, and how between the ages of 0 and 10 years old is when the trauma and the subconscious program sets in. And what happened for me, and I know that, again, I believe in God, believe in the Great Spirit. I don't believe in Savior. We are here to save ourselves. It's a self-rescue mission, and you're supposed to rescue yourself from all the distractions, from all the vices, from all the self-loathing, and truly become the greatest version of yourself. But here's what I saw as a teacher in what was called a trauma-informed school, is we started getting all this training about how to facilitate and support early childhood trauma, real-time trauma in children. And being somebody that considers myself an empath, I'm very, very sensitive to how people are showing up. And children are I'm even more sensitive to children because they have a harder time hiding it. As people, we put on so many layers of masks and bullshit, all kinds of people, we put out our stuff out there, blah, blah, blah. I'm religious, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And it's like, we're miserable. We have no self-confidence. We got all kinds of vices. And then we're told, oh, don't worry. It's just the flesh. It's okay. Being a Christian isn't about being perfect. Well, being a Christian shouldn't even be about being political. It shouldn't be about being a sports fanatic, and so many other things. But yet again, there's, as long as you got Jesus, it's like you got a scapegoat to bail you out of every situation. You got somebody to just blame all your shit on. So here's what I saw sitting at the front of a classroom with 28 9 and 10-year-olds, is I saw real-time trauma on these kids. I saw children coming into the classrooms that were not safe in their body. And they acted it out. They acted out their fears. They acted out their insecurities, right? They were not ready to engage in curriculum because so many of these children were actually dealing with real-time abuse, real-time neglect, real-time trauma. And as I started getting all these trainings about how to identify and facilitate and support the trauma that these children were going through, because as a school, we knew that the majority of our children were in very tough circumstances. And those tough circumstances were a absolute perfect environment for experiencing traumatic events. I myself, as a child, have experienced a lot of traumatic events. As a child, I've also experienced trauma as an adult. However, the trauma as a child is the long lasting. It is what programs your survival, your fight, flight, or freeze. It also programs you for how you show up in the world. It programs you to be, I have an addictive personality. Anybody ever heard that? I got an addictive personality. There's no such thing as an addictive personality. If you've ever told yourself you got addictive personality, I'm here to tell you that's a lie. You don't have an addictive personality. What you have is unhealed trauma, and all the things that you've turned to give you a sense of relief, of pain relief for what's going on the inside. And the reason why you turn to so many things, you give up one thing, you turn to the next, is because you haven't dealt with the trauma. And thus, like I said, trauma is not in the Bible. It's magic tricks. It's say this thing, do this thing, and everything is good. You're good. You're going to be in heaven. You're going to be so happy. You're going to have a mansion. Who cares if your life is filled with suffering in this world? But the next world is going to be perfect. I went all in on that. I truly, truly went all in on the religion, and it didn't get me far enough. And if it does work for you, I'm all for it, because here's one of the things I've realized in this journey. I'm not here to be divisive. If you are somebody that is so in love with Jesus, here's what I know about your experience. Your experience and my experience, we're both having life experiences on this place called planet Earth. It's the greatest school in the entire universe. This is an incredible school. It's the most challenging school. When I say school, I mean when you choose as a soul to come do life on this planet, the density, the challenges, it is the hardest to pass. And yet we don't all have the same mission. I'm somebody that considers myself a very old soul. I've done it so many times. I've done it before. And there are different levels to this experience. And if you're somebody that is so locked in that Jesus is the way, the truth, the life, he's the Lord, he's the Savior, amen. Just keep going down that path. Make sure, hold yourself to this accountability. Purge any hatred from your heart, any judgment from your soul. Try and move in as much love, joy, and peace as possible. Right? Try and be as close to Jesus as you can humanly pull off. Don't make excuses when you catch yourself saying, but that's Jesus and this is me. Jesus said everything he does, you can do even greater. Because you got him. You got him supporting you through the Spirit. So you could do greater things. But most people say, no, I can't do greater things. You don't believe it because what you're being taught, and this is the problem, in the churches don't teach you how to free yourself. They teach you how to worship and how to follow traditions of man. And anybody that wants to go pitter patter with me about that, that's not what I'm really here for tonight. Right? I'm trying to talk about the greatest gift. And I know some of y'all think the greatest gift is Jesus. But I'm talking about what's the greatest gift you've given yourself. And I'm not talking about material things. Even though you could celebrate, if you got yourself something really nice, that's awesome. Good for you. You should get yourself nice things. You deserve nice things. But don't make life about the nice things. If the only reason why you get the nice things is so other people will notice you, and other people will be like, oh, I love your this, I love your that, but it's not you, well, then that's insecurity, right? That's needing external validation. That's not believing in yourself. And what I have done on this journey is to give myself what I consider the greatest gift. Gifts, many gifts. I've given myself many gifts in the past 14 years. Many, 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 many gifts. Right? One of the gifts I've given myself is a relentless spirit to keep going. Even though I found different things that said, hey, just do this and then you're good. You don't got to keep doing the healing work. You don't got to keep going deeper and trying to figure yourself out at the deepest level of your emotional state of being. You don't got to figure out all that. You just say this prayer, you just dunk in the water, right? Say Jesus is Lord, and you're good, man. You got eternal life, brother. You're good to go. I'm like, but okay. But why do I feel so miserable still? Why am I still so confrontational? Why, if I'm honest with myself, I'm still angry. I'm still frustrated. I'm still hurting. I still can't figure out how to control myself enough that I don't sabotage my life and self-destruct. Why do I still feel drawn to do things that probably aren't beneficial for me? Why, when I am full of the Holy Ghost, perfect attendance, perfect tithing, perfect membership dues being paid, why am I the most cynical I've ever been, the most judgmental I've ever been, super unhealthy, overeating, not really that active, and kind of just miserable, right? Just going through it, just doing what everyone else says to do and be like, okay, I don't know, this isn't really changing a whole lot on the inside, but you guys promise that it'll get me to heaven, right? That I won't have to go to that burning hell. You promise that if I do all those things, you promise I'm not gonna burn? Amen. Amen. If you've been doing all those things so you don't burn, which is fear-based, right? It's fear-based. We need to be love-based. That's the greatest gift I've given myself, is to learn how to genuinely, fully, in the most authentic way, fully accept myself, to see all the parts of me, the good, beautiful things, but also the bad, mischievous things, a lot of even ugly things. And to say, you know what? I accept this. However, I know I have power to change how I'm showing up in this world, to change who I am, to change my thoughts about myself, my subconscious. And this is like everything I learned in going through these trainings, because they were teaching us about how to identify trauma in children as a teacher. And I'm like, man, this is me. This is how I am feeling as a, probably late 30, early 40s when that was going on, when I was teaching. I'm like, this is for these kids, but man, I'm learning about myself in ways I've never learned about myself. And that was eye-opening to be like, you're serious? Things that happened to me when I was a little kid, this is me thinking to myself, what? You mean to tell me that things that happened when I was a little kid are still impacting my behavior now, 30 plus years ago? And it all made sense. It made sense. I felt empowered to have that knowledge. And that is what keeps me on a relentless mission to continue shining the light of your power, the power that you really have in you. You are not a victim on this planet that needs saving. No one's going to save you. And the one that they say is invisible. And I promise you, Jesus is not a maid. If you believe Jesus is here to get you to heaven, awesome. But he is not going to clean the mess that you have made of your life. That is your responsibility. It is for you to do. You are responsible for cleaning your mess. And if there are people out there telling you, oh, don't worry, you can accept yourself. Just accept yourself the way you are. And it's like, that's bullshit. Accept yourself for how you've been. But if you genuinely give a shit about yourself, you really care about yourself, love yourself, then you're not going to keep yourself doing the same old things as if you're somehow helpless. You're going to make improvements when you go through what's called the spiritual awakening, not a religious experience, because what activates most people's being born again, we'll call it. What activates most of that? I sat in the church. I used to minister to men and women alike, left and right. You know what activates most people turning to God, turning to Jesus? Is crisis. Something bad has happened in your life and you don't know what to do next. And so you have this awakening. Oh shit, I don't know what to do. I'm in crisis. How do I know this? Because I did this. And guess what? I saw all these other people do the same thing. And this is not shame. This is awareness. This is perspective. That when crisis is present in your life and you go running, I gotta tell you, not everybody is going to genuinely have your best interest in mind. They may act it, but there are many wolves in sheep's clothing. There are many wolves in sheep's clothing. There are people that see you coming from a mile away, and guess what? They want nothing more than to take advantage of you in your desperation. And sure, they're going to try and give you some ingredients and pray over you and lay hands on you and all these things to make you feel like, hey, you're being taken care of. But then what? Then what we got going on? How are we going to get you from a crisis to being a mature, Christ-filled, world-changing disciple of Christ? How do we get you to that place where you don't just jump into comment feeds and tell people Jesus is the answer and then you disappear and it's like, all right, you don't need to tell me that. If I knew you, then I would know him if it was true. If he really was the one, you would be working miracles in the lives of other people. If you've been walking with Jesus for more than a year, 2 years, 3 years, how many years does it take till someone finds Jesus from a crisis moment? How many years does it take till you start really working miracles in your life? Is it 50 years? 60? I mean, I know guys that had been with Jesus their whole entire life, and they were still very immature, drinking the milk, not eating meat, right? Not stepping up for their faith. Just still kind of trying to hide out and show up and check the boxes. Because it was more fear-based, right? It's all fear-based. You don't want to burn in hell. Can't burn in hell. I'm sure some of you are like, man, this guy, does he love Jesus or hate Jesus? You know what? That's between me and Jesus. See, you got to work out what you believe, right? A lot of you are looking for someone else, even in your faith, to figure out what you believe, right? And the truth is, who are you behind the closed doors? Who are you when no one's looking? Who are you when you're not at church? Who is that person? Oh, well, right away, get defensive, right? Right away, it's so easy to get defensive. I'm not perfect. That doesn't mean I'm perfect. It's not about perfection. It's about the one thing that I set out for when I hit my rock bottom. And guess what? I turned to Jesus. I hit that rock bottom 14 years ago. And I called up my buddy. I was like, man, my life is ruined. I'm so done. I was so broken. I was broken. And he prayed for me and all that. But at the end of the day, it didn't get it done. If it did, I would still be there. See, that's the thing, is I kept showing up with a sincere heart. I kept knocking on doors, trying to create unity within the community of Christians, right? I would go check out this church and that church. I'd go to all the different churches in my community, and guess what? The leaders hated that. They're like, you're not loyal, man. Why are you going to that team? Why are you gonna go? Why are you hanging out with them? Why'd you miss our church service? You're not like, it was so sad, man. How territorial, and it's like it literally, like, a lot of the churches, it reminds me of a reflection of like our sports cultures. My team, this is my team. And it's like, what? If you even knew the Bible, the early writers of the Bible, like, there used to be one church in Rome, one church in all the different locations. There was one church. It wasn't 100 in a small town. Because when you go from having one unified body in a community, that is unity. When you have 100, it's because there's division. And a house divided against itself cannot stand. And that's why it's like, when we go looking for the answers outside of ourselves, we always come up empty. Maybe you get a little glimmer of what's possible. Yeah, thanks for joining, Luke. Appreciate your attendance. And I know that this type of conversation makes most of y'all very uncomfortable. It makes a lot of people uncomfortable. Ever since I stopped attending church, how many years has it been? Probably 20. I remember I went once in 2020. The last time I went, the last church service I went to, it was during the pandemic, Christmas of 2020. So 6 years. And a buddy had invited me, and I just happened to be up the road, and I said, all right, man, I'll go check it out, bro. It's like right around Christmas. So I'm thinking we're going to get like a little Christmas sermon. Nah, this dude went on and on. Like, these pastors are so silly. On and on and on. It was like a political rally. I thought I was watching a dude trying to run for governor or something, or the mayor of this town. I'm like, dude, what is this? What is this? This is church. I don't need to be here, man. This is silly. And yet I'm somebody that, through curiosity, when I ran for public office, I ran for city council twice. I lost because it wasn't in the cards. But a part of what I did was I made an effort, because I was going to be representing a whole community. I said, well, I identify as a Christian back then, and I want to go visit all the churches in my community. There was over 100 in this tiny little community. 100. So I literally every weekend, midweeks, and I'd go visit all of these different places and fellowship and worship. And it would upset the heck out of people to think that, oh man, you're not being faithful to your church home and all this. And it was a curiosity to see what's so different. What's so different about those ones up the road and these ones across the street and this one on the other side of town, this one with the little building, this one with the big building. I just wanted to see it all. Just curiosity. And if you're somebody, that same curiosity is what kept me going. That same curiosity is what has me here and able to sit in this fire. I can tell you 3 years ago, I wouldn't really even want to touch on the subject of religion, Jesus, because I was still indoctrinated with the guilt and just still trying to weigh out and evaluate and work out those beliefs. And yet I've had at least a dozen conversations with some real faithful, loyal, long-serving Christian types from different leadership, elders type positions. And I've had these conversations and not one person has said, you don't know what you're talking about. Because again, the word trauma is not in the Bible and there's not a process for healing the subconscious trauma. And that's what had me when I literally just felt misaligned. I felt like I was the guy asking too many questions within the church groups. And I felt like most people didn't like that. They're like, man, don't ask so many questions. Quit asking those types of questions. Just, where's your faith, brother? Where's your faith? Take it back to the basics. Do you believe Jesus is Lord? Do you believe he died for your sins? Just stay there, bro. Don't be asking these other mysteries of this, sacred text that I had read through many, many mornings. I used to wake up every morning. I'd get down on my hands and knees and I'd pray. I'd read the Bible from cover to cover. And it was a power. There is some really incredible things in there. There is a lot of wisdom in there. But anybody that knows me I used to be zealous. Like I was on fire for the Lord. But it was the people allegedly serving him that I was like, man, what do you guys really stand for? How come there's no growth? I always question that. Why is there no growth here? Why is everybody just still on the basics, man? The John 3:16. Like, why are we still stuck there? Can we get past that? Can we go way beyond that? Can we learn how to love our neighbor as ourselves? Can we go into the Old Testament, I think it's Ezekiel. It's either Ezekiel or Isaiah, where he talks about getting a new heart and a new mind. A new heart and a new mind. And that's like that emotional journey I've been on, to heal the emotions, because that's you're your own worst enemy. You don't need the devil. You're your own worst enemy. And the reason why you have become your own worst enemy is because of the shit that you experienced as a child, 0 to 10 years old. That's where the subconscious programming works. That's where you first felt fear. You first were terrified. You were yelled at. And even if it wasn't you, even if someone wasn't harming you, but in the house you lived in as a child, you feel the energy of what's going on 3 rooms down the hallway. And if there's friction and fighting and tension and anger and insecurity and fear, you absorb all of that energy. And that's how you show up in this world. That is how you are showing up. And that was the one thing. Like when I hit my rock bottom, I went crawling to Jesus. It sounded like the logical, it sounded like the right move. And it lasted for a while. But then I was going to therapy simultaneously, and I was sober, and I'm like, I was already over the sports kick. And I just kept sitting with myself and examining myself. And I couldn't figure out, man, how much do I have to read this Bible? Or how many prayers do I have to do? Or how many sermons do I have to teach? Or how many kids do I have to take care of? Or how many worship songs do I need to listen to? Or how much K-Love do I need to cruise around with? And it's just like, and I was still angry. I was still not able. I was still confrontational. I'd be sitting there arguing with my spouse, blah, 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 blah. And then we get to church and then, all right, we're here. All right, kids, get out of the car. All right, how you doing, brother? Doing great, brother. How are you, brother? Amen, brother. Love you, brother. Love you too, brother. It's like, fuck. Right, just hot under the neck, having fought with my now ex-wife for, the entire morning, headed out there. And then just put on the face, man. Put on the face. And then the few times I didn't put the face on, I'd go to somebody, an elder or somebody. Hey, man, we got some shit going on it right now. Like, can you pray for us, or can you meet with us to talk about, brother, you're going to have to schedule an appointment, man. We can't do that right here, right now. It's like, all right, man. Sure. Yeah, all right, bro. Yeah, don't got time for that. All right. So it was just there. It's like anything in life. The energy coming out of me tonight is not to dissuade you from exploring spiritual things. The energy coming from me is to share with you that I was once so curious, because I didn't grow up religious. I grew up agnostic. My mom was a hippie. I remember when I was like 18 years old, I was in the Navy. I was serving with the Marines as a medic, and we were getting deployed to the Middle East, with the threat of seeing combat. And I went to the chaplain, right? And I'm like, hey, chaplain, I had a question. And he's like, yeah, what's up, doc? And I was like, man, if we go to war and I die, and I've never been baptized, will I go to hell? I asked him that question, right? Just like a little kid, right? Just innocent, just super innocent, man. Just like pure hearted curiosity, right? Just, sort of the threat of like, man, I could die. I'm here. I'm in the military. We doing this thing. I could die. And what happens? Asking that question of our mortality. And he's like, what? You ain't never been baptized? I'm like, nah. He's like, oh, that's no big deal. He's like, come here. And he reaches in his pocket. He gets out this little oil and he does a little do, and says a little prayer over me. And he says, he basically just, do you believe in Jesus? Just repeat after me, right? Repeat this, say this. And he's like, there you go, man. You're baptized. And I'm like, that's it. He's like, yeah, that's it. He's all, there's one more thing. It's funny. He's like, there's one more thing. And I was like, what is it? And he's like, well, I do service 6 days a week on ship. And because I baptize you, I need your help during the service. And I said, all right. And so he recruited me and one of my homies to be the altar boys. And the funny thing about the chaplain on ship was the chaplain was the only one that had access to alcohol other than like the CO. They had it locked in just in case we were out to sea for an extended period of time. They'd give you a beer day basically. And so what would happen is me and my buddy started going to the church service every day, and we would help him administer the communion, and then it was real wine. And so he would let us kick back and like polish off the bottle of wine. So I was like, wow, man, yeah, this religious thing, man, gosh, being saved is great, man. I was all nervous, not sure if I would die, go to hell. And now here I am helping the chaplain, and me and my buddy here are the only two guys getting to drink alcohol on ship. This is great. It's a funny world out there. That's why I say it's the doctrine of men. Religion has become the doctrine of man. Religion, most of the boxes, right? Even Jesus, he always said, go do things, go minister to people. He always went places, right? It wasn't about a big building and fancy lights and bands and all the dudes, mostly dudes that really suck at jokes, trying to act like they're getting their 15 minutes of stage time, and it's like, man, this is not entertaining, right? Just preach the word, bro. What are you trying to tell us here? And I apply that to myself, is that I had that curiosity. I've always had that curiosity in this life, and obviously many others. But the curiosity was to be like, there was a select group of people in the Bible that I was always interested in. And a lot of pastors that knew me, they would always say, man, you're like the Bereans. There was the Bereans. And the thing about the Bereans, you can look this up, is that they received the word with enthusiasm. And enthusiasm means God-filled. But they didn't take you at your word, right? They were too curious that they had to cross-examine. They had to do their own research, their own fact-finding, their own deep diving discovery as to if what you were saying is true. Most people nowadays, if you walk in the if you drive to the building and it says, whatever, there's so many funny names nowadays, all the brands, I think you just assume that you're going to be spiritually fed. And I'm just here to tell you that that's not the case. That's not always the case. There's a dude out there, he gets eviscerated, but he created a documentary. It's called The Business of Religion. And it's just like, man, there's a lot of shady shit going on in that industry. Self-proclaimed dudes preaching Jesus. What's interesting is even the Bible talks about that. The disciples came to Jesus once and they were like complaining because some dude was basically being like a modern day pastor, right? He was like faking the healing work to try and build an audience. And Jesus said, just let him alone, right? Just let him alone. He always turned the cheek. Most of us, we don't even turn the cheek. We're so politicized. We're so focused on social issues and teams. I mean, even some of you that are hardcore into the religion, man, I see you cheering for your fucking teams 1,000 times more than I've ever seen you cheering or worshiping or pouring out your heart, man, for the gospel. And it's just, hear you crying online about your team and this and that and the game. And it's just like, it's silly. It's silly. And yet, am I here to shame you? No, I'm here to hopefully unlock something in you that makes you just go a little deeper, right? If religion is your thing, if Christianity is your thing, go deeper. Go deeper. Make this, final few weeks of this year and definitely 2026, make it the year that you go deeper doing whatever it is that is calling you to go in on. Because that's always been my MO. Ever since I was a kid, I always went above and beyond. Whatever it takes. I always had that kind of attitude about myself. I always went in 100%. Like if something interests me, I went 100%. And as I went 100%, if things started to shift, I'd always give myself at least one time around the sun to fully really see what is going on here. Then I would kind of pull back and really try and evaluate those things. But I'm really, if anything, I'm not trying to bash your faith, your religion. If that's what works for you, if that's what you're clinging on to, amen. I've transcended that. And I think unless I'm going to do several hours here tonight, which I'm not, it'll be something I'll talk about though in the coming weeks. It'll be something I'll talk about. I think right now is when a lot of people sort of kind of, I think, rally around the Christmas spirit and other, faiths around the world. There's a lot of religious introspection that happens right now, this time of the year. And I know that my experiences have a lot of learning. I've always been willing to learn, but I've always gone all in, man. And if you're half-assing something that you say matters, if you're somebody that literally is half-assing something that you say is so important to you, like, stop half-assing shit. Stop half-assing your health. Stop half-assing your religion, your faith. Stop half-assing your relationships. Stop half-assing your jobs. I mean, like, go all in. Go deeper. Because here's the thing is if you are still resisting going deeper with something, then you're not that into it. And that's a conversation you need to ask yourself as to why. Why? You say it, you come on here and you point all this shit out. 24 and advice. Don't get caught up in the drink. Don't get caught up in the partying. You're in your 20s. Right now is a good opportunity. Right now is the time where you need to figure out what makes you come alive. That's not something that has to do with social connections and chemical dependencies. So if you can, don't get caught up in the parties. Don't even chase after the girls, man. If you ain't married or engaged and you ain't met the love of your life, I don't know if looks like Jason. If I was talking to the 24-year-old version of myself, man, I would say invest, right? Learn how to manage money, increase your financial literacy, start to explore spirituality, but don't become religious. Maintain your health. Make sure that you create a system for your life that health and wellness is a part of your life for the rest of your life. Don't allow for like a job or a relationship to take away from you being the best version of yourself. If that happens, then that's a signal that you have some abandonment issues. You're willing to sacrifice yourself in order to have someone else in your life. And to me, that's not a recipe for success. That will run its course. So that's just a few things, Sobriety's number one, though. You want to really do life on life's terms, the biggest flex right now is sobriety, right? If you can be sober in this day and age and have fun, like doing things that do not require consuming massive amounts of chemicals and staying up all hours of the night, right? If you haven't, I would find what you get to do when you're in your 20s is you get to really find something that is what's most important now See, here's the thing. 87% of adults, right? Most of y'all don't want to admit this, but 87% of adults hate their job to some degree or another. Why is that? Why would 87% of people hate their job? It's because they half-assed public education. They've half-assed their 20s. They thought they had time. They thought that things were just going to magically improve their lives. And it's like you land up doing something that you didn't really ever want to do, but now you're like, I need money, so I have to do this thing. And it shows up in this world. That's why this world is just raging. You look at it, this world, man, everyone's fucking hurting. Everyone's going through something. I'm going through my things. I'm learning my lessons, but I'm doing it with an open heart, with as much positivity as I can squeeze out of the moment, because I'm here to learn. I'm not here to be destroyed by the challenges and the lessons that are all there to help me grow, to become the better version of myself. And I can tell you, man, I partied so much until I finally hit the rock bottom. And I wish that I wish I had this version of me my whole life, really. But I wish I had this version of me to be able to go back and really implant the wisdom and the knowledge that I have now. But again, I needed to make those mistakes so I could be here with all of you right now. And every single one of you matters. But the true gift, one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself, is to realize that there is a very, 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 very powerful version of yourself that is yet to be developed. It is the highest version of yourself. It is the greatest version of yourself. And no one can stop this from happening if you choose to develop this with intention, to become the best version of yourself. And that's one of the greatest gifts you could give yourself, is to become the man or woman that you never had in your life that you always needed. And most people, that's how they feel. Some people, hey man, if you had parents that were cool, that had your back, that supported you, that sacrificed for you, those are beautiful. That's pretty awesome. I didn't have that. But here's the other thing, is I know there's something I just said that is very unhealthy. If you had parents that sacrificed themselves for you, that's the example they gave you. And there's never an equation that says sacrifice yourself for the betterment of someone else. And by sacrifice, it's a very fine line. It's like when you see parents, when you see, my peers, right? Like all the unks out there, men in their 40s that are fat, that are overweight, carrying around, big bellies, big old flabby titties. And they can't even run a 100-yard dash without coughing up a lung. But they're like, I'm the greatest provider on planet Earth. And it's like, yeah, man, but look at the example that you're giving your kids. You're giving your kids the example that health, wellness, staying active for life does not matter. And to me, I see that. I'm like, no, I want my life to be the example, because here's the thing. I had somebody ask this, because I've had people in my life struggle with addictions after me. And I've had people say, like, just, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do about this and that? And I'm like, you know what? anytime someone is choosing addiction, it's such a powerful connection that they have with that thing. And until they have a life upheaval, an awakening, something, some kind of intervention, like, it's a vicious cycle that has to play itself out. And the best thing, I should say, the best thing that I can do for any person that's suffering from addiction of any type is to continue to be a role model for what it is to live an incredible life and be set free from the addictions. No alcohol, no THC, right? Especially the chemicals, but there's so many addictions out there. I'm still dialing down the addictions from sugar and food, and I don't do the sports really. Social media can still find its way there. Negative thinking can still try and show up. Right? There's so many different addictions, but the way that most people want to approach when someone else is dealing with the problem, when here's how most people want to help, is you got problems, but when somebody else in your life shows up with their problems, you put all the focus on their problems. Why? Because you don't have, if you fix their problems, you feel like you're doing a good service, but you ain't taking care of your own. And again, that's like, we need to be more prioritizing of ourselves, to be the role models, to be the team captains of our families. I mean, if you really want to like break the generational curses and elevate your standing in this society, it's like, be a fucking example. Quit making excuses. Be an example. Quit making excuses about why you can't do this and why you can't do that and da 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 da, and we're never gonna catch a break. And it's like, give me a break with all that. If I can turn my life around from the inside out, completely transform my life, anybody can do it. And together we can, the more people that actually start buying into the fact that, wait, the greatest purpose that you could have on this planet is to become the best version of yourself, right? Not to cheer on. I mean, some of y'all have clocked in probably 2 more full-time jobs worth of sports in the past 3 or 4 months. And you just write that time off. It's like, in the last 3 or 4 months, you could have almost have mastered a whole new skill that could deliver some incredible results in your personal life. But instead, you're just sitting there fucking distracted. I appreciate you, Jason. Thanks for showing up, my man. Dude, the way you help other people heal is by healing yourself, man. And I talk about that all the time on the channel. It's like the thing that I'm always talking about. And one of the hardest things, especially at your age, and even people my age, I mean, I'm 47, and I still experience this now, is that the more that I have healed, the farther on this journey I have gone. When people have told me all along the way, hey man, aren't you good? Isn't this far enough? When are you going to be good? When are you going to be done? And I just always felt drawn and pulled to just keep going further, especially when I feel the fire of, these old patterns trying to come up and grab power back from me, like put me back into a mold, limiting beliefs. The thing that I've realized, bro, is that when it comes to friends and families and loved ones, man, when you start healing, bro, initially you make a life change. People will say they support you, but if you really shift who you are, it's like alcohol is a great one, right? Alcohol was a great one for me because everyone around me used to drink. When I said I'm done, everybody's like, oh, well, that's good, man. You got a problem. So that's probably a good thing. They supported it. But then Because of me no longer drinking alcohol, guess what? I no longer had a lot in common with the people I was spending a lot of time with. And you can apply that same logic to friends, families, partners, all kinds of shit, man. Like when you start to heal your emotional wounds, the things that you think you need, they start to shift. The things that you've been attached to emotionally, when you let go and you say, I wonder what happens if I let go of this connection. If I stop investing, if I stop showing up, what'll happen? And what you start realizing is like, dang, man, I don't think I think these people may love me, but they don't like who I am. And it's all vibrational. Like attracts like. And so when there's people that are still wanting to be victims, wanting to stay at the lower vibration, dude, like you walk in and you're just a light filled being that's full of joy and love and hope and optimism, and they're stuck in the politics and the price of gas and milk and this issue and that issue, and everything's fucking complain. Woe is me. It's like, man, it's oil and water. That shit don't mix. And people start, right? And so you have to make the decision. Are you going to continue sacrificing yourself in order to maintain a closeness with these people? Or do you start to create some boundaries? Boundaries is really a big part of this process, is learning how to establish and reinforce. There's two parts to it. You create the boundary, which isn't to push people away, it's to keep them close. Do they have to respect the boundary? No. They can say, I'm not going to listen to you. Who do you think you are telling me what to? I'm not, me creating a boundary is not telling you what to do. It's saying that if you do X, even though I have told you I don't approve of it, that here's what happens. There's a consequence. I now have self-respect for myself. And it doesn't matter if we go back however many years and we're in the same family or whatever. I'm going to have to do a lot more life apart from you, but I'm going to do it in love. And that's been the big shift, is when you realize that it's hard to say. I'm so hesitant to use the term outgrowing people, but that's kind of what it is. People that are wanting to stay stuck and stay miserable, they're just not ready yet. I have optimism that we're all going to have an awakening at some point. Maybe not everyone this life, but at some point along your soul's journey, it'll all click the way it is for me right now. But it's never my responsibility to try and change you or to try and convince you that what I'm saying is true. That what I'm saying can actually benefit your experience on this planet. That you have all the power. You have all the power you need right there with you right now. You want to make changes, you can make them right now. And it starts with your attitude. It starts with the mind. And what you need to start realizing, when it comes to your life, when it comes to you making decisions, when it comes to your choices, do you make choices out of love or out of fear? And do you avoid choices because of fear? And there's a lot of people, you're just scared. You're scared. We haven't quite figured it out. So you're scared. I think that's most of the energy I see out there. It gets projected as anger and hostility and, hatred even. But it's really, people are just afraid. They don't understand why can't we all get along? And it's just like, we can't get along because you don't like yourself. See, the thing is, it's a full-length mirror. When the world starts harmonizing more, when you are able to look out on this earth and see more harmony, more peace, more love, more joy, more kindness, you know when that day comes is when more than 50% of the people on this planet have done the healing work that I am talking about. The emotional healing work. You have made peace with your trauma. You have released your trauma. You have forgiven those that have hurt you. You have forgiven yourself. And you are giving yourself permission to become more than who you are right now, which is a composite of your past experiences. And if your past experience have any kind of pain, any kind of heartbreak, any kind of emotional wounding, which is called trauma, then the chances are is there's definitely some fear inside of you. There's some sorrow, there's some grief, there's some apathy. But there's also hope. The hope is, if you're hearing this message, if you've listened to me deliver this message, which I consider to be medicinal, because I consider myself to be someone that has the gift of helping others along their spiritual awakening path, then you're in a good place. But I have asked you, wherever you're at, to start going deeper, doing more, going deeper within, looking at your days, looking at your weeks, looking at your months and saying, I want to invest more time meditating, more time reflecting, more time in therapy, more time in self-care practices, more time cooking healthy meals, more time in nature. I want to spend more time outside. I want to spend more time in community that doesn't require drinking or smoking or gossiping or small talking about bullshit, things that really don't matter. I want to be around people that are alive, that are awake, that are really enjoying life on life's terms, that really wake up every day. And it may not be easy, there may be challenges, but there's a spark in their eye. There's hope. You can feel the hope. You can feel the sense of optimism, that no matter what, they're optimistic. And if you're here listening to this message, guess what? I believe that's in you too. Yeah, I believe that 100%. Addiction is not the problem. We're the problem. I knew I had to learn it the hard way, right? I was the problem. Alcohol was never the problem. I was the problem. And even to call ourselves the problem, I mean, it's kind of harsh. I teach a lot that we shouldn't be so critical on ourselves. We got to be direct. We got to be freaking brutally honest with ourselves. But it's also starting to back off of that inner critic and being a lot more of the inner coach, to get really honest with yourself that, yeah, it's the addiction is not the problem. The root of all addiction is unhealed emotional wounds, which is trauma. And guess where that all comes from? Childhood. It's all from childhood. You may be upset about a fight with somebody or a disagreement, or you may be stressing about a financial situation or the holidays or just something that's happening in your life right now. But how you are dealing with that. Hear me when I say this. This is the magic. This is the secret sauce. How you are showing up in the now goes all the way back to the seeds that were planted when you were a little child. that is when you started to program yourself for survival. Fight, flight, or freeze. Those are the three patterns that we come with. And it's not until you deal with the root of your emotional state of being. Why are you so angry? Why are you so sad? Why are you so frustrated? Why are you so apathetic? Why are you so filled with grief? Why are you so upset? Is it because of what happened yesterday or today or last week or last year? No. No. It's about what happened 0 to 10 years old. And that's really what I guide and coach people through one-on-one. If you're interested in hiring a coach, you're wanting to make that investment, start the next year, having full accountability so that you can actually make next year your best year, at least the one where you really start to gain some traction, Greg, Greg at resultskillexcuses.com. Send me an email. We'll do a sit-down consultation, see if we're a good match. But regardless, when is enough going to be enough? When have you watched enough games? When have you eaten enough unhealthy junk food? When have you just fill in the blank, smoked enough blunts, eaten enough edibles, smoked enough cigs, drank enough drink, stayed up way too late? When have you had enough hangovers? When have you had enough just toxic relationships? What is the breaking point for you to say, I want to figure this out once and for all? It took me hitting the rock bottom, right? I had to hit that rock bottom. I'm a stubborn dude. And I hit that rock bottom and I broke into pieces and I've had to refragment myself. I've had to put myself back together, but I've done it from the inside out. And the beautiful thing about breaking into pieces the way I did is that I was able to realize that I am the author and the editor of my life. And that if I want to change my life, I can change. I can change anything. I can change whether I like something or hate something. If you hate something right now, you can change to saying, you know what? I like it. And if it's too painful for you to go from I hate something, maybe it's a food, maybe it's a politician, maybe it's a team, whatever it is, like to hate stuff, to be too high or too low about anything is not healthy. It tells you, it should be feedback for you that you lack emotional awareness when you get too high and too low. Because where you really want to be in this life, if you want peace, is there anybody here that wants peace? If you want peace, the secret sauce to having peace is not that no one's doing bad things in this world and somehow because it's happening, it's harming your sensibility towards is there peace or not. That's not where peace exists. Peace needs to come from within. So the secret sauce to creating peace is to find a place of neutrality within, no longer judging other people. Because if you spot it, you got it. If you're judging somebody about anything and you think you have justification for anger, for hatred, for rage, for just absolutely like gnashing your teeth, rah, I'm so angry at this person. You don't even know them, but you're told about who they are and you believe all that. Who is in control of you? It's not you. It's not you. And that should startle you to the point of like, yeah, I'm not in control of myself. When this person existing totally screws up my life. Really? Are you just using that as an excuse? Because you know that it would take a lot of consistent and transformative energy for you to change your life. And it can be done, but it feels harder. It's difficult. It's challenging. And it's so much more easier to just jump on the bandwagon and hate and be frustrated and sad and angry and a victim of everything that's going on outside of you that you have no control over. We have totally forgotten who the fuck we are. You are so powerful. Everybody I'm talking to right now, you need to realize that there is power inside of you that is infinite. Like there's nothing you cannot accomplish if it's in your heart and you believe in yourself, you can do it. It may not turn out exactly what you're imagining because you're in a state of progress right now. When you hear this and you start down this journey, it's hard to see too far down the tunnel. Like we get a vision. You can have a vision. You have some ideas of who you can be. And some of us, we have these visions about what the potential of our life is. And it freaks us out so much that we're like imposters. We say, no way, I can't do all that. How? Because that's the problem. We ask that question. We say, how? How can I do it? And the thing is, I'm here to tell you, you don't have to answer that question before you start. What you need to do is have enough inspiration, motivation, and discipline mixed with some consistency to just start. To start down the path of making some changes in your life. And again, you could do it peacefully. You can make a choice right here, right now to say, I'm going to make some changes in my life. I'm going to start making some real positive changes. Not this is my year. No, this is right here, right now. There's no years are significant, but they are not measures of like a reset to like do something every single day. The greatest gift is life. The greatest gift that you have is life. Are you doing life or is life doing you? Are you in charge of your life or is someone else in charge of you? Are you the star of your life or are you an extra in someone else's movie? Because the greatest gift would be for you to step out from behind the curtain, from out of the shadows, and do what I did 14 years ago. You know what I did? I made a decision. I'm done with alcohol. I'm done with THC. Done with the whole partying lifestyle bullshit. I'm ready to figure myself out. And the way that I started is I said, I need some help. I need help. And I'm going to turn over every stone to figure myself out. And this is where it's led. And it's a very inspiring place. I enjoy every moment of life. Doesn't mean it's easy, but I appreciate it. I give thanks for it. The most smallest things give me so much joy nowadays. So that when big things show up, it's like, it's incredible. But I'm not over here focused on the chaos in this world because I'm somebody that realizes that where focus goes, energy flows, and you are being robbed of your energy. And it's because there's a system designed to do that to you. And that system doesn't like guys like me talking about this stuff because when you choose to say, you know what, yeah, I'm going to ghost my teams. I'm going to just start pulling back from that. I'm giving too much into it. It's unfulfilling. It's not rewarding. I'm still here stuck. I'm still walking around being unsatisfied with who I am, just body wise, more or less what's really underneath the surface. And the cool thing is that if you start to engage and put in effort to make improvements in your life, really have some inventory and accountability of yourself, and start deciding that I'm going to make some massive changes about who I am and how I'm showing up in this world, I can promise you that you may feel like you're behind, but you're not. You're right on time. This time is now. But if you're somebody that says, well, I got to wait. I got to wait for the new year. Or I got to wait for this time or next week or this. It's like that time, it never shows up. And so if you're sitting there right now, you're doing the work. You're putting in the effort every single day, that 1% better every single day. I'm proud of you. Keep going. See how far you can go. Challenge yourself to see how far you can go. Plenty of people will try and pull you off of your journey, but you'll know always if it's time to ease up or if it's time to just keep going, staying locked in. Because the vision becomes clearer and clearer and clearer along this path. And what's cool is that the clearer the vision becomes, it's like my hands coming together, you become in alignment with that higher version of yourself, and you start to show up as it. And as you start to show up, things start to shift in your reality. You start to show up in a whole new way. And that is the most empowering thing. It's one of the greatest gifts, is to be able to trust myself, to know myself, not to control myself, to know myself, to understand, to have full awareness of who I am, what were all my triggers, what was the root of all the emotional wounds and all the toxic behaviors and patterns and confrontations and anger and frustration, to know all of that and to make peace with it, to forgive myself, to forgive others, and to set myself free. It's been the greatest gift. And I'm going to keep showing up and giving and appreciating the gift called life. There's a lot of you. If you looked in the mirror and you looked at yourself and you really assessed your life right now, how you are using the thing called life, which is time. It's a measure of time. How do you utilize your time? There's a lot of wasted time out there. And time is one of those things that when it's gone, it's gone. But there's another very cool thing, is that once you start to appreciate and have intention with your time, you do actually regain the time. When I started shifting my nutrition, exercising again, doing the journaling, doing the emotional healing, shifting my attitude about so many different things, it's like it's the fountain of youth. I feel so youthful right now. I feel so energized. I feel powerful. And you can too, regardless of where you're at. There's a lot of incredible stories of people turning back the hands of time because they start taking care of themselves in a way like never before. And I hope it doesn't take you having some kind of life upheaval. I know friends that it took them getting that cancer diagnosis or having the heart attack for them to finally fucking start getting their shit together. But if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. Because again, you're listening to somebody that always had an attitude, whatever it takes for you to awaken, to start realizing that the greatest gift is life. What are you doing with your life? How are you using your time? I hope that this message causes you enough of a pause to realize that now is the time. Go deeper. Whatever it is that floats your boat, but something that actually is purpose driven, something that feels like it's the reason for living, not just watching sports, not just eating food, not just complaining about politics. There's got to be another purpose for why you're here on this planet. And I believe our number one purpose, not our only, our number one purpose is for us to become the greatest version of ourselves. You becoming the greatest version helps me. Me becoming the greatest version helps someone else. And the more people that do it, it's like if the earth was dark and every person that started to heal their emotional wounds, it's like a light bulb goes off. And because that person shines their light, the person next to them sees that light and they say, oh wait, I want to have a light. I want to be a light. And then so they start doing the work, and then their light bulb goes off, and the next, and the next, and the next, and the next, and the next. That is how we shift this planet. You cannot change anything outside of you. Your responsibility is to change everything on the inside that needs to be changed. And most of us need total overhauls, complete overhauls. There are so many things that we need to unlearn in this reality. There are a lot of things you believe right now that do not benefit you and aren't even true. But it's a story that you tell yourself because someone else is telling you it, and so you believe it. But you're not putting in real research, going deeper to really find your peace, your neutrality, so that you don't get caught up carrying the issues of somebody else. I think that's it. That's what I got for you guys. I was on here a lot longer than I thought. It's always great to be on here. I'm going to get on again. We're going to keep talking the talk, walking the walk, and administering the medicine to help support you along your spiritual awakening journey. I love you guys. Thank you for joining me tonight. I hope that this is the beginning of you showing up with a whole new attitude, with a whole new focus on what is the greatest gift. It's life. If you're taking it for granted, stop. Write down some things that matter to you and go make those things happen. I love you guys. You know the drill. Results kill excuses, because if it was easy, it wouldn't be worth it.